Can you share with us what are some of the really hard aspects of doing this?
I've never had that question before. That's
Oh, well,
interesting.
remember it here on
The
BU
tough
Network.
questions coming from Catherine.
Yeah, there you go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Joe, Dr. Energy Piazza.
Rara is in the house. Catherine Sarah Myers.
Welcome back to BU Network Podcast, Conversations Worth Having. On our podcast, you can expect three things. 1, the BU guest moment. 2, the BU moment. And 3, the BU final moment.
As promised, we are giving you a very special audible on each show. Your job, well, not your job, it's to find it. You know the game Where's Waldo? Well, here we will ask you to listen for that audible. I'm ready, Dr. Energy. How about you?
I'm ready, willing, and able.
I didn't even want to take a
do
breath.
this thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump right into it today. It feels like the day we should jump in 2 feet first and then turn around and jump in backwards 2 feet first.
Yeah, no looking, just jump right in. I don't know what's in the water, and as a lifeguard, I can't really necessarily condone that. However, I think we're pretty safe here to jump in.
And as a person who's jumped into the water, holding the hand of, at that time,
and not knowing how to swim.
Right, with my husband, who wasn't my husband, not knowing how to swim, I'm all in when it comes to jumping. And I love that picture of the parachute. Like, this is so cool. Any of our audience who hasn't opened up those emails, which I'm sure that they are, but we have some pretty cool pictures that our graphics are really fun.
If we do so say ourselves.
Oh, yeah. We put a lot of good work.
Do say so, whatever. Easy for me to say.
Say it 3 times fast.
Do say so.
Say Maury's name 3 times fast. Oy vey.
Maury.
Ah, you're so funny. You know what I mean.
You got to be explicit, right?
Okay, say Maury's first.
I'm a little kid at heart, right? Be very explicit.
Say Maury Zelkovich.
Maury Zelkovich.
And that's who we interview today.
Yes.
We have a good time or what?
Absolutely. And I think we'll be all aligned and entrained and in sync and harmony, however you want to say it.
Well, I do want to give away a little secret.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I sleep with Maury every night. And I want to explain that.
Maybe you shouldn't explain it. Maybe we should just leave it there. And
okay, all right. Just
let people will figure it out, but through the podcast.
All right. Once you listen, you'll understand exactly what I mean, and maybe you too will be doing the same as us. And our experience with Maury has been completely amazing. We don't know where we should give him this testimonial. Do we put it on Google? Do we go to Google review? Maury, let us know.
I think we're doing it right here on our podcast. We're giving him a great testimonial, I think.
We're really having a lot of fun with that. And I just want to share with you today, being in Niagara on the lake, it is sunny. We're in the springtime here.
What's the temperature like there?
15. I don't know. I'd have to go look 65. At my app.
It's sunny and 65.
Yeah, it's making
our
up
American
the temperature.
Friends. Yeah, here in Ottawa, it's sunny, but it's only about 10 degrees Celsius, so about 60-ish degrees or so, something like that.
Well, actually, as soon as we're done recording this, I will be stepping outside, and I can then let you know. But it looks beautiful. It doesn't matter. Just getting out there is so cool these days because we're done. We're done with the snow. We're done with the cold. Yeah. We are ready to be out there. I want to start barbecuing. I want to just hang out outside. I feel like that's the way to get, our
Watch out for the bugs.
Yeah. Oh gosh, this is the thing about living near the water.
Yeah.
We have those things that just keep multiplying. And then after those things, we have these red things. And then after those red things, oh my gosh. But okay.
Well, here in Ottawa, we have the National Forest, right? We have Gatineau National Forest. So we got to even add on to that. So, and the river. So we got bugs in there. We got a lot of stuff going on around here.
And I'm a New York City girl, so this doesn't. I always talk about me being outside in my clicky poo shoes, walking around on the farm here, sitting around on the farm, just like when I moved to Canada, the first thing I said to my husband, who wasn't my husband at that time, I said, what are the winters like here? He said, oh, it's just, it's a little bit different than New York. And I moved to this country with a leather coat, black leather gloves, and black leather boots. And he said, well, maybe we should go shopping.
Yeah. Montreal in the winter. Yeah.
Was minus 40 degrees. If we had only known Maury then, because the things that he can do with our brain, the things that he can do with the entrainment,
yes,
the training that he has in the life experience, when we listen to him, when we speak with him, I feel that we had a very interesting connection, a vibration, if you will. Yeah. I think our guest will feel that.
Yeah, the connection with Maury is great. The entrainment, it's really about getting our brain, both sides of our brain, if you will, speaking to each other in a better way, in a more efficient, optimal way, so that we can entrain with ourselves, and then it allows us to entrain with others even more.
I feel that after this episode, we should recommend any form of entrainment, whether it's the entrainment that you're talking about, that Maury is talking about, to actually go into, I would invite our listeners to go into a state of entrainment to really get the full benefit. Once you have the dialogue going and you're sort of prepared for it, take it to the next step, audience.
Maybe we'll have to do on our membership site and Buy Me a Coffee, maybe we'll have to do a special training just for our members on how to create that state for ourselves. It's very easy to do, actually, with using breath and some focused intention. So I think maybe that...
I like it. Oh, yeah. You're letting the cat out of the bag. Okay,
I'm coming up with stuff in the moment, right? In being... Because when we can quiet all those voices in our head... Right, we can be and allow the inspiration, that connection to something that's bigger than our mind. Because I think that's one of the problems in our culture today is we think that our mind can solve all the problems, but our mind is also what created the problems, a lot of them. And as Einstein has said, we can't create the solution from the same level of thinking that created the problem. So when we can allow our mind to go quiet and connect with something larger than ourselves, something bigger, deeper, then inspiration comes in and we can see problems or challenges or solutions in new ways and then create something from there.
So did you just give us an example of entrainment on the spot?
Shh. Be very, very quiet.
Then let's go over to Maury, and then let's go over to our membership page, and let's go do some work over there.
And just before we jump over to Maury, I want to make sure that our listeners, make sure you check your show notes on this episode, because Maury has something free for you to help you deal and work with uncertain times. So very important stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right, let's jump on over.
Yeah, let's hop over.
All right, I'll see you on the other side.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.
Be you, study.
Be more at ease in your communication so you too can have conversations worth having. What is Be You Study? A private, online room to rehearse impromptu speaking, receive instant feedback and achieve quick results, and feel confident that no one is laughing, unless you're telling a joke.
Plug in anytime, anywhere. Study with seasoned pros. Access your customized feedback. Then speak with ease and build amazing relationships. Dr. Energy, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Oh, you stole my thunder.
Ha! I'm Sicilian too, you know.
Yes,
How
indeed.
are you?
I'm doing awesome.
It's so good to be here today. I am super psyched to be listening and speaking with our guest today.
It's really something that's near and dear to my heart, not just because Maury uses the word entrainment, which we use in the office as well as part of what we do chiropractically. I just really like the idea of of systems working in harmony with each other, and that's kind of what entrainment is. So I see, what you and I do, and with our guests, and today with Maury, we entrain with each other. So
Right. We're certainly in alignment.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the things that I really relate to with Maury is in the opening intro that I have. So if it's okay with you, it's the second sentence of the intro that really resonates with me. So listen very carefully, audience, because you'll know a little bit more about what's going on here. All right, I'd like to introduce Maury Zelkovich. Oy vey, say that 3 times fast. I've had many problems ranging from hearing thousands of voices in my head to severe depression, says Maury. I had a big mouth and always got into trouble and was accident prone. Something inside me made me look into the brainwave entrainment field when I observed that time would move faster than other times. I made the connection that when time moved quicker, the sounds I was hearing were more rhythmic. When time painfully stood still, the sounds were disjointed. After many years of using other people's products, I was determined to learn why these technologies seemed to work only in a minor way, when all of the research I read suggested the effects should be more dominant than what I was experiencing. Maury then decided that his best route was learning at the feet of an expert in the field. So, Maury says, I found and contacted the world's foremost expert in the field of brainwave entrainment. There's your favorite word, Dr. Energy. And discovered some invaluable secrets that I could not get anywhere else. Now I've conquered the extra voices and severe depression, and my mission in life is to help others improve the quality of their lives without the use of dangerous and habit-forming drugs. Wow. That's a man. Look at us. You owe me a beer when you say that. Yeah. Maury, thank you so much for being here with us. I have so many wonderful things to say about you, but I'd like our audience to hear it firsthand.
That's very kind of you. I really appreciate the both of you having me here and allowing me the opportunity. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We didn't tell you that we're not letting you go. We're going to keep you until we go to sleep tonight. This is going to be the first 6-hour podcast ever.
I've seen a few of those streams. I've seen a few people do like 24-hour live streams, and I was like, I couldn't do it. There's no way.
Well, I was thinking we can start something and we can call it So Don't Get All, Sleep With Me, and have Maury come and help us go to sleep.
Yeah, I'll just stand there and watch.
I was going to say, do you ever get any testimonials, Maury, where women or come up to you and say, I sleep with you all night, and their husband's standing right there?
It's funny you say that. I do get that. And I also have a lot of people asking me, especially women, of course, asking me, do I put anything subliminal in there that is designed to make them get attracted to me in some fashion? Because you can imagine, especially when you don't associate a face with a voice.
Right.
And when I'm speaking in these recordings, I don't generally speak the way I'm speaking with you two right now, which is more conversational. It's more of a hypnotic and light kind of way to speak. And sometimes they think I'm, trying to seduce them, which is not the case at all.
Definitely not. Definitely
it's just an idea to relax and to entrain and to get your brain to help you to help yourself.
Exactly.
Well, that's another business altogether.
That one they charge by the minute.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another business. You can, level it up if you want to go to. But where you are right now is awesome. I am a big fan, and actually I am one of those women. My husband and I, when we first started listening to you, we did that together, and my husband would say, get Maury. Like, all right, let me go get Maury. And if people start listening to you the way we have before, maybe they won't get to talk to you, but we're lucky enough to be able to do that. I just feel like you know more about me than you actually do because you're with us every night. It's a very interesting perspective. Most people listen to people when they're either working or driving or who knows what they're doing, but we're listening to you when we're in bed going to sleep to make sure that we can go to sleep, and we go to sleep to the sound of your voice. That's an intimate relationship with your clients.
Yeah, it's designed that way. It's designed to be trusting, because the truth is everything I do involves the most important component of my work, which has nothing to do with me. Actually, it's you, it's your brain, your mind. And as long, I tell my clients all the time, because I'm constantly getting, oh, thank you for this, thank you for that. And whereas I'm grateful and appreciative for the credit, I don't really deserve it. uh, if you come up with a pill, for instance, that would make people totally healthy, live to be 150, they'd have all the knowledge they ever need when they need it. And when it's time to go, they would go with a big smile on their face, knowing whatever comes next is a beautiful, wondrous experience, next in line. Then what would happen is, you still have to take the pill. And by taking the pill, by listening to the recording, by following protocols, you actually are helping yourself. A hammer doesn't do anything by itself. A saw doesn't do anything by itself. A paintbrush doesn't do anything by itself. It requires you to use it. And when you use it, you get all the credit, because without you using it, it really doesn't accomplish anything. And this is something that I've always wanted to get across to my clients, that it's all you. I've just created, a tool. That's all. When you use it, that's when you get benefits. It doesn't create benefits if it sits on your hard drive or
It's
phone.
it's choosing the right tool for the right job, and you still have to choose it and then use it, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, Maury, I have a question. I sort of know the answer a little bit because we've talked, but I'd love for you to tell the story about how you started this as a business by getting those phone calls where people would say that they listened to your recording. Can you tell that? Because it's such a cool story.
Sure. So basically, how this all started was, I've been depressed for 40 years. And I would wake up every morning and I would look out the window and cross my fingers and hope I would see mushroom clouds. Because if I did see mushroom clouds, it meant I didn't have to live through another day. And the cool thing about that is that I tried to kill myself a bunch of times too. And everybody's kind of wondering, why does he think that's cool? It's cool because it taught me the biggest lessons I ever needed to learn, which was, I really didn't want to die. Because if you want to end your life, it's pretty easy to do it. And the fact that I tried it so many times and no one ever knew, so I wasn't, crying out for help, that meant I really wanted to live. And it started me trying to understand what really motivates me, and what is causing me to be the way I am. And when I suddenly realized that all these things I considered evil and horrible happening to me were really lessons instead of being horrible, that my defining of them as being horrible or evil or terrible actually kept me from recognizing that they were lessons and that there was something to learn from it, that really just opened my eyes, in a wondrous way. And it made me start realizing that I need to start figuring out how to do this. So what basically happened with these people calling me up is, I realized that I've got a problem with my head, because that's where everything was originating from. I could localize my issues with my brain, my head. So I started researching the brain, thinking, well, I can't end my life. If I can't die, I have to find a way to live. And I started studying the brain. I started studying neural physics and quantum physics and neurochemistry, and everything to do with neurons, everything to do with the brain cells. And I ended up realizing through various experiences that sound played a very large role, or could play a very large role, in how I behaved, how I perceived the world around me, everything else around me. So I started developing recordings. And when I had the first recording, it sat for about a month because I was afraid to use it. I was afraid that it wouldn't work, but even more so, I was afraid it would work. I heard thousands of voices in my head all the time. I had all these issues. I've dislocated and broken bones, and I was hurting myself all the time. So the one day when I finally decided to try it, I felt nothing. I listened, nothing happened, or so I thought, until about 5 minutes afterwards, when suddenly the voices started coming back. Now, you have to understand that I thought up until then that everybody heard thousands of voices all the time. I didn't think it was unusual. I just thought I wasn't coping with it as well as everybody else. So I knew I was onto something, and that started me creating and inventing. But what happened was, friends I had started noticing, hey, Maury, you're a lot different. What's going on? And I said, well, I have this recording that I created and I'm working on others. Hey, can we try it? Sure. So I gave it to them. They all got back to me and said, Maury, this is amazing. I can't believe, the kind of feelings I'm getting. But I just thought they were friends being nice. They're just being polite to me. Turns out that they ended up giving these recordings to other people that I don't know. And I started getting phone calls from these other people. And when I started getting calls from people I don't know saying, what's going on? I'm listening to this. This is happening. That's happening. I realized I was onto something that wasn't just for me, because the whole creation of this technology was selfish. It was purely for my own use. I never intended this to be out in the public, but sometimes things just happen and you can't stop them once once the ball starts rolling down the hill, right? It's hard to stop it.
When something is there that can advance life or help others in life and the universe speaks to us, you can't ignore it. If you try to ignore it, the taps on the shoulder get larger and heavier, and life says, hey, are you paying attention yet? And you got to put it out, and you've got to put it out there. You don't have any choice. Like, life is urgently calling us. It's the difference between what we want to do and what we must do. And when it becomes that must, there's nothing is going to get in the way of life flowing through us.
That's true. And the interesting thing about depression, at least in my case, is that with depression, you feel powerless, totally powerless. You're at, the mercy of everything and anything around you. But when I started creating this and seeing that it was helping others, it kind of made me feel like maybe there was a reason for me to feel this way in the first place for all these years. It gave it a meaning, a good meaning.
Exactly. I know it's interesting that you measure, easy for me to say, mention that about feeling powerless. One of my mentors, Donnie Epstein, says that depression is just rage without the enthusiasm. Right? You have all this anger and rage inside you, but you don't have it. It's like, yeah, so what? I can't do anything about it anyways.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was more sadness. I wasn't angry. I kind of thought I might have been Hitler in a previous life, and I was just getting my just desserts.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were going to speak, Dr. Energy, so I took a breath to give you a chance.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, sure. I do have a question, actually. So you were talking, Maury, about how the history or story of how this came to be a product and how you came to be doing this as a business. And I think that, in the times that we're in right now is, the uncertainty that so many people are dealing with, and so many people, when I'm seeing in the office, and you may be hearing this with clients, they don't realize just how deeply they've been affected. They have a sort of a surface, yeah, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, it's getting a little bit much to deal with. But I think underneath there's a much deeper, I don't know what the right word is, wounding, disconnection, sadness, heaviness, and people are just not knowing how to deal with things.
That's so true. Even in the areas that are opening up, there's still this trepidation that anything could happen at any moment to take the freedom away again.
Right.
And it's not the government taking away the freedom. I mean, it is literally the government taking away the freedom, but it's more the circumstances. We haven't, at least in my lifetime, I'm almost 60 years old, I haven't lived through anything like this.
Right.
I live in Canada, so there's never been a threat of being invaded or war or alien attacks or anal probes or any of that kind of thing going on. There's never been that kind of fear. I mean, we've lived most of our lives, or most of us have lived all of our lives without any real, disruption.
Right. Pretty privileged.
Yeah, incredibly privileged. And I'm not sure how many of us were grateful for it before all this happened. Usually we become more grateful for things when we find that we're without them. And when we're with them, we don't really notice. Interesting thing about your body is, when was the last time either of you thought of the big toe on your left foot?
Right now, because you mentioned it.
Right. Or
the other day when I banged it off the furniture.
There you go. Exactly. Or the other day when you banged it. So we don't pay attention to things when they're working properly. You don't pay attention to your car when it hums along and it starts every time and your tires are fully inflated. And but when a tire goes flat, or when you run out of gas while you're driving, or your radio stops working, that's when you start noticing things. And this is not a reflex in human nature. This is something we've been taught to pay attention to things when they're wrong.
Right.
But we haven't been taught to pay attention to things when they're right. And I don't really believe in the law of attraction, because I think when someone calls something a law, they're really telling you don't think, because we're supposed to accept the law, right? We know it's wrong to kill or hurt or rape or steal. So we don't do that because, or most of us hopefully don't do that, because we know it's against the law. We don't question the law. We just accept it. So I don't really believe in the law of attraction as it's worded.
Right.
But that being said, I do believe that we get what we look for, because we end up seeing what we're looking for.
Right. So that's kind of like what Wayne Dyer talked about. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? It's all perspective, right?
That's right. And that's why you can have the same thing happen with 10 witnesses. And if you interview them all separately, they'll all have slightly different stories. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how the Mori method and the brainwave entrainment, how does that help us? And we don't have to go super deep into the science. Not everybody's neuro geeks like you and I. But give us a little, surface view or 30,000-foot view of how that helps people be able to shift their perspective to see something differently.
Okay. Now, this is going to sound very simplistic, but understand I'm not dumbing it down for anybody except myself.
Perfect.
Because this is actually how I understand it. So here it is in a nutshell. Your brain, which is made up of billions of neurons, these neurons pulse minute electric pulses every second. And depending on how many times a second they pulse, that dictates whether they're in alpha, beta, theta, gamma, delta. These are all states most of us have heard of, but we don't really understand what they are. So an alpha frequency might be 10 times a second the neuron is pulsing. A theta maybe 5 times a second. A delta maybe 2 times a second. So it just gives you an idea of how it works. The interesting thing about that is, depending on how many times a second these neurons pulse and the region of the brain they're pulsing in, they create chemistry. Endorphins, neurotransmitters, and hormones. All of these chemicals merge together to make a chemical soup. And if your brain is functioning properly, it creates a really tasty soup. And if it isn't functioning properly, if these neurons are all over the place, then the soup you create is kind of like a real soup that I create, which tastes mostly like dishwater, because I can't cook at all. I am really bad at cooking. So what happens is that your thoughts are the main way, one of the main ways that our brains create frequencies. So if we have negative thoughts, we are literally creating a negative chemistry of soup that tastes bad and makes us feel bad. Without chemistry, you don't feel a thing. When you are together and you kiss each other goodnight, that feels nice, right? And when you cuddle, it feels nice, right? Now, it feels nice, and that experience of the feeling comes from your brain creating frequencies, which then creates brainwave activity, which creates chemistry. And it's that chemistry that allows you to feel good. So here's where brainwave entrainment comes in. Brainwave entrainment takes advantage of a feature of the brain called the frequency following response. And the easiest way to relate to that is, let's say you're listening to music you like, and you start bopping your head or tapping your feet mindlessly. That is a form of entrainment. Your body is following the beat of the music. You're not trying to do it. You're not even aware that you're doing it, but you're doing it. So what we do is we expose your brain, your neurons, to specially designed and sculpted frequencies of pulsed tones. And it's these pulsed tones that create the following response. Just like your feet tap to the music and your hands tap and your head bops to the music, your neurons, bop to the sounds, and they start pulsing at a similar rate. What that does is that gives your brain the opportunity to release neurochemistry it's designed to release. It changes how you think, how you perceive the world around you, and how you act and react to anything that happens around you, because now you have different chemistry. And that chemistry is what allows you to feel and experience and gauge or judge what your experience is in the world around you. So it's really all a matter of neurochemistry. And that chemistry can easily be reproduced simply by taking your brain by its hand. Yes, I know you never realized the brain had a hand, but it does. And you guide it gently into, stable frequencies for periods of time longer than a few seconds, because this is the real problem. In our world, in our society, the way we've evolved as a society, our brains don't get a chance to stay in a stable frequency, a dominant stable frequency, for more than a second or two at a time. Now, if we remember what I said about frequencies creating chemistry, imagine when we were cave dwellers. We didn't think about taxes. We didn't think about stress. We didn't think about anything. We lived very much in the moment. It was all about survival, eating. We didn't get upset over death. It was a natural thing. It happened. Disease, same thing. All these things just happened. We accepted it. We moved on. It makes perfect sense to realize, or to suppose anyway, that back then our brains would have had dominant frequencies for much longer periods of time. Why is that relevant today? Because despite the fact that we've evolved a lot, as a civilization, even physically, when back in those days, the records show we still had two nostrils, we still had two ears, we still had two eyes, we still had a brain. Our brains have evolved functionally, but they haven't evolved physically that far from where they were. As a result, we are not getting the neurochemistry that is naturally produced or should be naturally produced. Because of that, we panic, we stress, we have anxiety, we have PTSD, depression,
Right.
all
Right.
these
And
things.
I think this is part of the reason why, mindfulness meditations and just meditation in general is such a big deal right now, because it gives that pause for us to be in that state a little bit longer than we otherwise would be.
Right, which gives your brain the fuel it needs to operate more optimally. And
Exactly.
what's interesting is there's research that shows that if you take untrained people, teach them how to meditate for like 20 minutes a day, half an hour a day, over 8 weeks, their amygdala shrinks. And the amygdala is a little part of the brain. It's like a walnut-sized piece that when it shrinks, it's the flight or fight response. It's known as the lizard brain. So when it shrinks in its ability to make you panic and flee and get frightened as well. So that's one of the reasons why they theorize that meditators and using this kind of technology makes you an instant meditator. But that's one of the reasons why meditators seem to heal faster when they're ill or when they recover from surgeries or injuries, why they are calmer, why they seem to be more psychologically sound. All of these things happen because, or one of the big reasons in my mind, is that the amygdala shrinks and its influence over you shrinks as well. It's
Now,
negative
Maury,
influence.
I want to know, is this a good thing for all women to want their amygdala to shrink or not?
Well, they want their men's amygdala to shrink, but they
Okay.
don't want
Oh, do
other
they?
parts of the men's anatomy to shrink. Although,
You said
hey, if it's
something.
cold out, it's cold out. What are you going to do?
Yeah, you said something earlier. I didn't want to interrupt you. I was really listening very intently to what you said. You talked a little bit about the attraction and when there is that chemistry. What happens when that chemistry is there one day and then it's gone? So what is that all about? And I know we can relate to it in business, in personal, we can relate to it in friendships, with a client relationship, maybe in a marriage, maybe in a sibling. How does that work?
Well, again, it comes down to how the chemistry is produced, as to what is causing it. What is the driving force behind the chemistry? Look, some relationships are like a bag of milk or a loaf of bread. Not that I eat bread or milk because I don't think they're great for you, but they have a best before date, which means they can be really good for a few weeks. And then after that, they get stale or they go sour. This is just nature. It depends on what is initiating the original response in the first place. So if the original response is something that isn't overly strong or overly real, I'm doing this as if I have, in quotes, as if I have a camera on me, then what will happen is it'll wear off. It's almost like a placebo.
Right. This is very thought provoking. Thank you for bringing that up. That way we can really think about the best before date. Now, let me ask you a hard question, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I love what you're saying, and all our
Sure.
audience is loving it. I'm sure they're going to be loving it.
Mhm.
When you come into this business that you're in, because it's a business, right?
Yeah.
Like you stepped into it, you created a business out of it. Can you share with us what are some of the really hard aspects of doing this?
I've never had that question before. That's
Oh, well,
interesting.
remember it here on
The
BU
tough
Network.
question is coming from Catherine.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, I would say the toughest thing is that in the self-help industry, there are a lot of brilliant minds and a lot of fantastically heartfelt, wonderful people. And I'm not one of them. No, I'm kidding. So the problem here, though, is that people are so used to, because in so many other aspects of our culture, we're taught, look, if my car breaks down, I don't try to fix it. I take it to a mechanic. If I get migraine headaches all the time and I can't help them, I go to see a neurologist or a doctor, another kind of a doctor. If I have erectile dysfunction, I go to see someone who has as a specialty erectile dysfunction. I'm always going to specialists. So we're brought up to always want to go to a specialist. We don't have our own answers. Everybody else has our answers but us. So for me, the toughest thing is when I have a client come to me and say, Maury, my life sucks. This is wrong. That is wrong. This is wrong. That is wrong. And they're asking me to solve their problems for them. My systems are designed specifically that I am not needed. The mothership can come, pick me up, take me away, and my products don't lose any effectiveness. I am not a necessary part. Just like whoever invented the hammer or the saw or the paintbrush isn't necessary to you using it. It's my belief that you are your own guru, nobody else. I think that nobody can be an expert in anybody else's life. If you have done something and you're incredibly successful at it, you can inspire people. But if they act on your blueprint, they're very likely going to fail. If they take this information in and then they reinterpret it, they reimagine it, they reinvent it in terms of their own existence, their own experience, and then choose to act on it, that's when I think there's relevance. And that's when I think things are successful. But that's my biggest struggle is when people ask me, Maury, help me, tell me what to do. Because I don't want that responsibility, first of all, and I don't think I can tell them what to do.
It's one of my mentors said to me one time, or actually said to a patient, I was shadowing them before I was going to cover their practice for vacation. And a patient said to them, I just want to thank you for helping, for healing me. And my mentor said, I don't take the platitudes, the credit for healing you, just like I don't want the responsibility for when things don't go right for you. It's you're doing it. It's an inside job. We have an innate healing mechanism that we're just helping to do its job. And there's a couple things you mentioned in there about the tough question and the self-help industry. And this is one of the things that I've really been coming to myself recently is that, and you hinted at a couple of things, was we tend to focus on the mind so much in the self-help industry, and we leave out soul, we leave out spirit. And you hinted at that when you were talking about inspiration and the experience and taking the information in and repurposing it through our own lens, through our own experience. And I think that is something we can't do it all from the mind. There's something bigger than the mind out there. And sometimes we have to be quiet enough to be able to hear it. And I think that what your products do is help us get to that place so we can be and feel that inspiration, feel that connection, and therefore, like you say, repurpose the information, and then it becomes knowledge and wisdom.
Dr. Energy, I think this is a great segue into. I love that you shadowed somebody before you went and took over their patients. That's so astute of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you continue to impress me every show. It's amazing, every meeting. So I think this is a really good time for us to segue into what we call our BU final moment. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so Maury.
It sounds good to me.
Maury makes.
I can do that hypnotist voice too, when you're just feeling very relaxed.
He
Take a
makes
nice
me want to
deep breath.
Okay,
bring
now I'm
that
asleep, so forget me for any more of this shit.
baritone. All right, let's wake you up. All right, here we go. So, Maury, we're going to go into the BU final moments. What that means for us and for our audience is what came up for you today during this talk, this conversation worth having, as we've coined our podcast. If you could share with us your BU final moment, then Dr. Energy, I'm going to zip right on over to you.
Okay, so first of all, I feel like I've been in someone's basement having a nice drink, just chatting. And that's such a nice change. I didn't hear you calling me brilliant. I didn't hear you calling me smart or any of this stuff. I appreciate being treated as a human being, because that's all I am. And truthfully, I don't believe there's any such thing as genius anyway. Just everyone has the ability to see certain things other people don't see. And that's why we're all here, because we're all necessary and we're all needed. But if I had to come up with one thing that kind of came up for me, it's just that I feel like for the first time, and I realize you're not going to cut this out, so I hope no one else who's interviewed me ever hears this, but for the first time, I felt like a listener and an interviewee at the same time. And like literally, I'm listening to the two of you, and it takes concentration to remember that I'm not just sitting at home listening to something, that I'm participating in it as well. And I find that very unusual. I've never had that happen before, where I've literally had to watch myself, because there were a couple of times, I don't know if you noticed, where you asked something and it took me a second before I kind of started talking, because I forgot that I was the one being asked the question.
Well, thank you. That's high praise. That's a thing that we like to cultivate with our guests. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome, but I'm not, I'll tell you what I tell my clients when they tell me thank you. Don't thank me. I'm just stating an observation. That's all.
Maury, so. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here and sharing with us about your BU final moment. Now, Dr. Energy, I'm looking at your picture. Our audience doesn't know that I'm looking at you being funny, man. You bring funny to the room. You bring happiness to the room all the time. We are going to...
Just yesterday, actually, when we were talking about... I was actually asking a question while they were on the table, to have them just feel the answer in their body, not to answer it out loud. I didn't need to know the answer, but just to go with the feeling of it. Was, what would life be like right now if you remembered in this moment exactly who you are, why you're here, and what you're made of? And then I just let them feel it. And that's my BU final moment today, is to know who you are, why you're here, and what you're made of. Catherine, what's your BU final moment?
I'm so glad you asked. My BU final moment is I got right into the listening, active listening of what was going on today. I took a slightly different perspective than I usually do, because I wanted to take it all in, as if there was nothing else that mattered. Not the time of this production, nothing about the sound quality. I put my leap of faith into, this is exactly where I need to be, and I am going to absorb it. I'm going to take it in. I'm going to let it envelope me. And this episode is different than all our other 70 episodes, because I just jumped right in.
Can I say something else quickly?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. The interplay between the two of you and your voices, very hypnotic, very relaxing, very enjoyable. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I had to try to keep myself where I am all the time, because I felt like I'm listening to some, high class radio show. The quality and the timbre in the voices and the compassion and the emotion and just the thoughtfulness. It's overwhelming a little bit in a beautiful way. Much like being out in a warm rain, you just don't want it to stop, right?
Right. You close your eyes, you put your head back, you open your mouth, you let
That's
the rain
it.
go all over you, and you just embellish that. That is a great way to put a close to this episode today. And Maury, we will have all of your links and all of your generosity listed in our show notes. And today is a special day for so many reasons, known and unknown to all of our audience. When you get to listen to this, jump all in, because that's the way it feels the best, just like a nice warm rain. Thank you for joining us. Sharing is caring. Tell your friends about conversations worth having on BU Network. We really appreciate your reviews, and you can do that on Apple Podcast. Thank you.
For show notes and links, go to www.b-u.network/podcasts. Connect with us via our website, www.b-u.network, and build a relationship with us. Sign up to receive information, updates, and your free video training at www.b-u.network/pro.
We're looking forward to hearing from you, and thank you for being with us. Ciao.
Ciao, babies.